want to bring in former U.S. Attorney and Texas Congressman John Ratcliffe right now. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yes, ma'am. Glad to be here.
Now, you've worked with Jim Comey. You know him very well. We want to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on the president firing the FBI Director Jim Comey at this point?
Well, I like Jim Comey. I have defended him. He's someone that I did have a chance to work with. He's someone that I have never ascribed ill motives to as FBI Director. However, I have disagreed with him regarding his judgment with respect to certain matters, particularly the handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation, something I made very public when I questioned him in the House Judiciary Committee hearing last September.
So what happened? Do you think that's the main reason that the president lost confidence in Jim Comey?
Yeah, Maria, I mean, reasonable prosecutors will differ about this investigation, but I think the one really unpardonable, unforgivable sin was when Jim Comey decided to be the FBI Director and the Attorney General at the same time. You simply can't wear both of those hats. For the same reasons that I can't write laws, interpret laws, and enforce laws at the same time. Now, it may not have been his fault. He may have been a victim of circumstance. He certainly, I think, was a victim of poor judgment by Attorney General Loretta Lynch. But regardless, because of that, I think people had lost faith and trust in his leadership as the FBI Director, and I think the change had to be made because of that.
And you're saying when he wore both hats, it was when, being the FBI as well as the Attorney General, when he came out and said, well, you know, Hillary Clinton was incredibly careless. She did this, this, and this. However, we're not going to press charges. We're not going to move forward because we couldn't find a judge who would ever take this case. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, and I think that was made very clear in the memo from Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to the Attorney General in making the recommendation for dismissal. The FBI Director can never supplant the judgment of federal prosecutors. Jim Comey was a great federal prosecutor, but the role that he was supposed to play was FBI Director. He can't do both, and ultimately that's what led to his dismissal and why I think it was appropriate.
You know, both sides of the aisle have questioned him in the past few weeks. And one of the issues has been obviously the politicizing of lots of agencies, in particular the FBI. You and I have spoken about this. One of the things that you're focused on now in terms of getting independence back to the FBI and eliminating this politicization, how easy or tough is that to do at this point?
Well, you know, I look at Director Comey's predecessor. Robert Mueller was FBI Director for 12 years during some of the most chaotic times in our history, including 9/11. I don't ever remember Robert Mueller being the story. The problem for Jim Comey is, again, whether it was all part or none of his fault, he too often became the story during the last year. So we've got to move away from that. President Trump needs to appoint someone who is fiercely independent and who can restore the people's faith and trust. Listen, Maria, we have survived bad presidents before, Republicans and Democrats. What the Republic can't survive is if the people lose faith and trust in agencies like the FBI and the Department of Justice to fairly investigate and prosecute violations of the law. And as you said, on both sides of the aisle, people have been levying that complaint.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to run a portion of my interview with President Trump, because during my sit-down with the president just last month, I asked him about keeping Comey. Listen to what he said, Congressman.
Well, people are still wondering, though, they're scratching their heads why so many Obama-era staffers are still here. For example, was it a mistake not to ask Jim Comey to step down from the FBI at the outset of your presidency? Is it too late now to ask him to step down?
No, it's not too late, but, you know, I have confidence in him. We'll see what happens. You know, it's going to be interesting. Don't forget, when Jim Comey came out, he saved Hillary Clinton. People don't realize that. He saved her life, because I call it Comey 1. And I joke about it a little bit. When he was reading those charges, she was guilty on every charge. And then he said she was essentially okay.
So there you go, Congressman, and it underlines what you were just saying in terms of the politicization of the agency. Who do you want to see in the job, Congressman?
Well, I know that the White House is being inundated with both solicited and unsolicited recommendations. You know, folks that have a background like me as former prosecutors, jurists, law enforcement officials, sheriffs, chiefs of police. I think that there's one candidate that will ultimately rise head and shoulders above the rest of us, and that would be Trey Gowdy.
So you want to see Trey Gowdy in the job because he's trusted, you think?
Well, here's what we need in an FBI director. We need someone who's familiar with the FBI, and as a former federal prosecutor, he certainly has that. We need someone who's incredibly capable and skilled, and anyone that has watched Trey Gowdy question a witness on Capitol Hill or previously in his career knows that he has that in spades. We also know that the FBI director needs to be someone for whom the moment is never too big. And under the brightest lights and under the greatest scrutiny, Trey Gowdy has always performed admirably and inspired folks, in fact, created envy from many folks. But most importantly, Maria, right now we need an FBI director who is fiercely independent and is guided by fairness and integrity. And those are pretty rare commodities in Washington, D.C. I will tell you that Trey Gowdy has more fairness and integrity and is more motivated by it than any person that I've met in Washington. And when it comes to fierce independence, I think he may be the only Republican in Washington who has never met or spoken with Donald Trump. So I think he's exactly the type of person who would inspire confidence both inside and outside the FBI. And that's exactly what we need as a nation right now.
And I guess you wouldn't worry about losing the seat in the House because South Carolina, you think, would stay Republican.
Well, no member of Congress is that valuable. We've got 435 of us. There's only one FBI director. It is a unique position for which we should all want the most capable, qualified person in there, and to my mind, that person is Trey Gowdy.
And real quick, have you spoken to Congressman Gowdy about this? Have you floated it to him?
I have not. I have not. He is not a person who would ever promote himself, but I know that the White House has received many calls from members of Congress like me and other people throughout Washington and Capitol Hill who would like to see Trey Gowdy because there isn't a better choice or one that would be more wildly popular with the American people.
Yeah, well, we'll see. The White House has said that they will be naming a successor soon. So did you get a response from the White House when you floated Trey Gowdy's name?
I was told by several folks within the White House that they had received a number of calls on his behalf and that he was certainly in the mix.
Okay, we will leave it there. Good to see you.